Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I am so glad you are here with me today. So settle in, get comfortable, and let your imagination travel with me. Because today we are going somewhere. Not just to another country. Not just to another time. We are going inside the mind of a man who wore simple white cloth and walked with a wooden stick. A man who had no army, no money. And yet, this man frightened the most powerful empire in human history. I want you to think about something before we begin. Think about the last time someone hurt you. Someone said something cruel. Someone treated you unfairly. What was the first thing you felt? Anger. The desire to fight back. This feeling is completely natural. It is human. It is ancient. But today's story is about a man who felt that anger and chose something else, something harder, something almost impossible. He chose not to fight back, and because of that choice, he changed the world. His name was Mahatma Gandhi, and the world would come to call him Mahatma, great soul. But he did not begin as a great soul. He began as a frightened boy. And that is exactly where our story starts. If you enjoy learning English through stories like this, please subscribe to Timeless English. Every week we bring you a beautiful new story in slow, clear, simple English, just for you. India. Paisai. Imagine a small boy. He is 7 years old. He is walking home from school alone. The sun is going down. The streets are becoming dark. And this boy, this quiet, gentle boy, is terrified. Not of other children. Not of anything you might expect. He is afraid of the dark. He is afraid of snakes he cannot see. He is afraid of what people think of him. He is afraid of almost everything. His name is Mohandas Gandhi. And one day the whole world will know that name. But right now he is just a small, frightened boy walking home in the dark. His mother is waiting for him. Putlabai Gang. A woman of extraordinary faith. Every morning she prayed before she ate. Every year she fasted for weeks at a time. She gave food to people who came to the door, even when there was very little left for her own family. Young Mohandas watched his mother. He did not know he was learning something. He did not know those quiet morning prayers were shaping him. But they were. Everything she was, everything she believed, was slowly becoming part of him. 1888. Gandhi was 19 years old. He stepped off the ship and felt the cold for the first time. Not Indian cold. A damp gray cold that came through his clothes and settled in his bones. He stood on the dock with his small bag. Around him the city moved at a speed he had never seen. Men in tall, women in long coats, horses and carriages everywhere. Noise, smoke, everything moving. And Gandhi standing still, completely alone. The loneliest he had ever felt in his life. He had come to study law. He had come to make something of himself. But in those first weeks in London, he tried to do something else. He tried to disappear into England. He bought expensive English clothes. He stood in front of the mirror in his small rented room, brushing his hair the English way, trying to look like someone he was not. He took dancing lessons. He took violin lessons. He practiced English manners at dinner. He smiled when he did not feel like smiling. He laughed when he did not understand the joke. He tried to become English because he believed, as many people believe when they are young and far from home, that the only way to belong was to become someone else. But belonging does not work that way. And late at night, alone in his room, looking out at the gray London rain, he knew it was not working. He was not English. He was not becoming English. He was just becoming lonely in English. And so, slowly, he stopped trying. He put away the English clothes. He put down the violin. And he started to read. He read everything. The Bhagavad Gita, Tolstoy, Thoreau. He read about truth, about justice, about what it means to live with integrity. And something inside him began to change. Something he could not yet name. Something that was not yet ready. But it was coming. He did not know it yet. But everything he would become was beginning in that small cold room, in the London rain. THRE, Nagtite Hanagiti Variting, South Africa. 1890. Gandhi was 23 years old. He had qualified as a lawyer. He had returned to India. He had tried to build a career, and he had failed. He stood up in court to argue his first case. His mind went blank, completely blank. He could not speak. He sat down. He returned the client's money. He walked out of the courtroom in silence. It was one of the most humiliating moments of his life. But something unexpected came from that failure. An offer. A legal firm in South Africa needed a lawyer. For 1 year. Gandhi accepted. He had nothing to lose. He arrived in South Africa. And within days he understood something. The Indian community here was treated as less than human. They could not walk on certain footpaths. They could not use certain doors. They could not travel in first class. They were British subjects. They carried British passports. But they were treated as if they did not exist. Gandhi watched this. He was quiet. He was thinking. And then one night, everything became personal. The train was moving through the darkness. Gandhi was sitting in the first-class compartment. He had paid for a first-class ticket. He had every right to be there. The seat was comfortable. The compartment was warm. He was reading. And then the door opened. A white passenger stood in the doorway. He looked at Gandhi. His expression changed. He turned and left. A few minutes later, the conductor arrived. He spoke to Gandhi quietly but firmly. "You will need to move to the third-class carriage." Gandhi looked up from his book. "I have a first-class ticket. It does not matter. You must move. I paid for this seat. I have done nothing wrong." "If you do not move, we will stop the train." Gandhi said nothing. He looked out the window at the darkness outside. He thought for a moment, and then he said, "I will not move." The train stopped at the next station, Pietermaritzburg. Two men. They took Gandhi's luggage. They threw him off the train. The platform was cold. The night was dark. The train moved away, and Gandhi stood alone on that platform, watching the last light of the train disappear into the darkness. His luggage was gone. His coat was on the train. He was shivering. He found the small waiting room and went inside. He sat on a wooden bench in the cold, and he waited, not for another train. He waited because he had to think. He could go home to India. He could pretend this night had not happened. He could accept that this was simply how things were. Many people accepted it. Most people accepted it. It was easier. Or he could decide that this was not acceptable, that he would not spend his life pretending, that something had to change. He sat in that cold waiting room all night, alone. The cold floor beneath him, the dark outside the window, and somewhere in those dark, quiet hours, something shifted inside him. The frightened boy from Porbandar, the young man who tried to disappear into England, was making a decision. He was going to stay. He was going to fight. But not the way everyone expected. Not with anger. Not with violence. With something else. He did not have a name for it yet, but it was forming. In the cold. In the dark. On a wooden bench in Pietermaritzburg. That night, without knowing it, Gandhi became Gandhi. Pfar Unpardodo UR, THIDA Tashkangidi Hidor, over the next 21 years in South Africa. Gandhi learned something that no book had taught him. He learned that violence always creates more violence. He had seen it. A man is beaten. He wants to beat someone back. That person wants revenge. And it never ends. The circle of violence keeps turning. Forever. But what if someone broke the circle? What if someone said, "You can hurt me, and I will not hurt you back. You can imprison me, and I will go to prison without hatred. You can take everything from me, and I will still not become like you." He developed this idea. He called it Satyagraha. Satya, truth. Graha, to hold. Holding firmly to truth. The idea sounds gentle. It is not gentle. It is one of the most difficult things a human being can do. Think about it. If someone hits you, your entire body wants to hit back. Your heart is racing. Your hands are shaking. Every cell in your body is saying, "Defend yourself. Fight back." And Gandhi was saying, "Do not. Stay in the truth. Let them see what they are doing. Let the whole world see. Because the moment you become violent, the world stops looking at them. It starts looking at you, and your message is lost." Gandhi was beaten many times in South Africa. He was beaten by a mob in the street. They hit him. They kicked him, and he did not hit back. He covered his face with his hands, and he waited until it was over. The British authorities watching this did not know what to do. They were confused. How do you fight someone who will not fight back? How do you defeat someone who smiles when you arrest them? Who thanks you when you imprison them? Who becomes more powerful every time you try to silence them? It was a new kind of war, and Gandhi was winning it. IVERETR India 1950. Gandhi stepped off the ship. He was 45 years old. He was thin. His head was shaved. He wore simple white cloth. He carried nothing. People came to see him. They reached out to touch him. They called him Mahatma, great soul. He was uncomfortable with this. He did not feel like a great soul. He felt like a man with more work to do. India in 1915 was under British rule. Everything that India produced, its cotton, its tea, its minerals, flowed to England, while millions of Indians lived in poverty. British officials told Indians what to do. British judges decided their legal cases. British soldiers kept them in line, and many Indians had accepted this. They had been told, for generations, that the British were superior, that the British system was better, that India was not ready to govern itself. Gandhi wanted to understand this. Before he did anything, he wanted to understand India. He did something unusual for a man of his reputation. He bought a third-class train ticket. Not first class, not second class. He wanted to travel as ordinary Indians traveled. He sat on the hard wooden seats. He ate the simple food people ate. He listened to their stories. He heard what life was actually like. Not for the educated Indians in the cities, but for the farmers, the workers, the millions of people whose names no one knew. And he understood something that would become the foundation of everything he did. He understood that India was not free, not because the British were more powerful, but because Indians were cooperating with their own oppression. The British needed Indian administrators to run their offices. They needed Indian soldiers for their army. They needed Indians to buy British cloth, to use British courts, to send their children to British schools. If Indians simply stopped cooperating, simply refused, the entire system would collapse. No army in the world could force hundreds of millions of people to cooperate. It was the most important idea of the 20th century. And a thin man in white cloth had found it, by riding in third class. THECLT March 12, 1930. Dawn. Gandhi was 60 years old. He woke before sunrise. He prayed. He ate a small meal. And then he stepped outside. 78 people were waiting for him. Follower, believer, people who trusted him. He looked at them. He smiled. And he began to walk. The destination was the sea, 240 miles away. The purpose was simple, almost absurdly simple. He was going to pick up salt, salt from the seashore, salt that God had put there for everyone, salt that the British government had made illegal for Indians to collect. They had to buy salt from the British. They had to pay a tax on salt. Salt. One of the most basic things a human being needs to survive. Taxed, controlled, owned by the empire. And Gandhi was walking to say, "This is wrong." Quietly, gently, but unmistakably. This is wrong. And we will no longer pretend it is not. He walked. The old man with his walking stick, through villages and fields, through early morning mist, through midday heat. The road was dusty. His feet were bare. And as he walked, something extraordinary happened. People came to watch. Word spread ahead of him. Gandhi is coming. Gandhi is walking to the sea. Farmers left their fields. Shopkeepers closed their doors. Mothers brought their children. Old men walked alongside him for as long as their legs allowed. By the time he reached the coast, 24 days later, tens of thousands of people were with him, and the whole world was watching. Gandhi reached the sea at dawn. The water was gray and calm. The light was just beginning. He walked into the shallow water. He bent down. He picked up a small piece of salt, a tiny piece of salt, and he held it up. He said nothing. He did not need to say anything. The image said everything. With that one simple gesture, he had broken British law. He had challenged the most powerful empire in the world. With a piece of salt. The British arrested him. Of course they did. 60,000 Indians were arrested in the weeks that followed. 60,000. And still it continued. At one salt work, a line of peaceful Indian men walked toward the British police. The police raised their clubs. The first row of men walked forward. The police beat them. The men fell. They did not run. They did not fight back. The next row walked forward. The police beat them. They fell. The next row walked forward. An American journalist was watching. He could not believe what he was seeing. He wrote about it. He wrote every detail. The quiet faces. The raised clubs. The men falling. The next row walking forward. His words went around the world. And the world looked at the British. And the world said, "This is not right." Pars Eve Ian, The Longro 80, the years that followed were not easy. There was no simple victory. No single moment when the British said, "You were right. We are leaving." It was slower than that. Harder than that. Gandhi was arrested many times. He went to prison calmly. He brought his books. He spun cotton thread in his cell. He meditated. He wrote letters. When conditions in the prison were wrong, he simply stopped eating. The British were terrified each time. A dead Gandhi would be catastrophic. So they released him. Each. And each time he came out, he started again. The Second World War came. Britain desperately needed India. India sent soldiers. millions of them. Gandhi said this was the moment. He launched the Quit India movement. Leave India. Now, not after the war. Now. He was arrested within hours. He spent almost 2 years in prison. He was in his 70s. He was not well. But he did not break. He never broke. Parrot EGHT TED of AMPRE August 15th, 1947. India became free. After almost 200 years of British rule. The British left. Not because they were defeated in battle. Not because India had a more powerful army. Because they could not hold a country that had decided to be free. Because the moral cost of staying had become too high. Because the world had watched, and the world had decided. This must end. Gandhi had done it. The frightened boy from Porbandar. The lonely young man in London. The man thrown off a train in the cold night of South Africa. He had done it. Without firing a single bullet. But the story does not end here. It should end here. It would be a clean ending. A satisfying ending. But real life is not always clean. India became free. But it also broke apart. Hindus and Muslims could not agree. The land was divided. India and Pakistan. And the partition brought a violence that Gandhi had never wanted. A violence that broke his heart. Hundreds of thousands of people killed. Millions forced from their homes. He walked through towns that had been destroyed. He visited villages where neighbors had turned on neighbors. He sat with people whose families had been taken from them. And he fasted. The old man. Fasting in the middle of the violence. Trying to make people stop. Look at what we are doing to each other. Look at this. And some people listened. Some of the violence stopped. Not all of it. Not enough. But some. T. Last Periyar, January 30th. It was a warm evening. Gandhi was walking to his evening prayer meeting. He was 78 years old. He was frail. He had fasted so many times. His body was thin. His steps were slow. But his eyes were clear. And his smile was the same smile he had always had. Gentle. Certain. Warm. He walked through the garden. People pressed close to touch his feet. He greeted them with folded hands. Namaste. And then a man stepped forward from the crowd. He bowed as if in greeting. And then he fired. 3 shot. Gandhi fell. The last words on his lips were 2 words. He ran. Oh God. The garden was silent for one terrible moment. And then it was not silent at all. When the news spread, the world stopped. In New Delhi, people fell to their knees in the street. In London, people stood in silence. In Washington, the president wept. Albert Einstein said something that has stayed with people ever since. He said, "Generations to come will scarce believe that such a man in flesh and blood ever walked upon this earth." Enian, ten buhate eight bihi, and Gandhi left behind an idea that has never left the world. The idea that truth is stronger than armies. That suffering chosen with dignity is more powerful than violence. That one person who holds firmly to what is right can change everything. A young minister in America read about Gandhi. He went to India to study Gandhi's methods. His name was Martin Luther King. He used those same methods to fight racial segregation. He changed America. A man in South Africa spent 27 years in prison. He came out without hatred. His name was Nelson Mandela. He changed South Africa. The method works. Not, but it worked. Padilavam. Mahatma Gandhi once said something simple. He said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Think about what that means. Not, ask someone else to change. Not, wait for the world to change. Be the change. Yourself. Now. The frightened boy in the dark streets of Porbandar. The lonely young man in the London rain. The man shivering alone on a platform in Pietermaritzburg. He could have accepted what the world told him he was. Small. Unimportant. But he chose something else. He chose to hold firmly to truth. And the world moved. Today, when you learn English, you are making a choice. A choice that many people around you will not make. It is not always easy. There are days when it feels impossible. Days when you do not understand. Days when progress feels far away. But Gandhi taught us something about those days. He said the strength does not come from winning. It comes from the struggle. It comes from deciding, every single day, to keep going. You are learning English. You are studying. You are listening. You are pushing forward. That is not nothing. That is everything. Every word you understand is a door opening. Every story you follow from beginning to end is your mind growing stronger. You are doing something real. Keep going. Hold firmly to your own truth. Your Mahatma is waiting inside you. Thank you for listening to this story today. I hope it stayed with you. I hope it gave you something to feel, not just something to know. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a like. And if you want to join us every week for more stories like this, please subscribe to Timeless English. Until next time, my friends, keep learning, keep listening, and keep enjoying the beautiful journey of English.